Thank you, everyone. Council, we are back in live session. It's now 7:38. Next on our agenda is item 7D, addressing disputes between neighbors, snow, ice, and other. Ms. Bujaya, who'll be speaking to this?
Mr. Mayor, it's my pleasure to present this report.
Excellent. Please proceed.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Sandy Bujaya, the Director of Legal and Legislative Services, and I'm very pleased to present this report on options for dispute resolution amongst neighbors and residents. Sorry, I'm just going to move this over. Thanks.
That's better. Thank you.
By way of background, Council had asked administration to report on options for addressing conflicts between neighbors related to snow and ice removal, as well as other common property concerns. Council expressed interest in knowing what mechanisms are available through certain bylaws, as well as any other dispute resolution options. Certain bylaws can help to reduce conflict between neighbors and residents because they do set out rules aimed at reducing conflict in public spaces or setting minimum requirements for property maintenance and land use more broadly. For example, a community standards bylaw will often be used to address a range of issues related to creating safe and welcoming public spaces and addressing a host of property-related issues, things such as snow removal, untidy property, noise, etc. These are all things that may result in conflict between neighbors. Currently, the city does not have a community standards bylaw, but administration is in the process of developing one. At the next committee of the whole meeting, our Director of Protective Services will be providing an update on this project, but the work is well underway. The city's land use bylaw regulates and controls the use and development of land and buildings in the community. The bylaw contains regulations for setbacks for homes from property lines, landscaping, parking, building heights, garage sales, signs, and more. As Council is aware, administration has conducted public engagement on the land use bylaw and will be reporting to Council on its findings later this year. While bylaws play an important role in providing a legislative framework, bylaws will not resolve all resident or neighbor disputes. It would not be feasible and likely not desirable to regulate all behaviors or actions that could potentially lead to conflict. No one wants to live in a police state. Many conflicts or disputes are complex, and someone simply not following a rule, are more complex than someone simply not following a rule. And often we see communication and relationship breakdowns at the heart of a conflict. Not many municipalities offer their residents access to dispute resolution services, but there are a few exceptions. One example is Strathcona County. It offers a service through a partnership between the municipality and a volunteer organization called Strathcona County Community Mediation Society. The aim of the society is to provide dispute resolution services that are easy to access, confidential, free, delivered by skilled mediators, and voluntary. Administration met with the Society's program director and one of their experienced volunteers to learn more about their services. The Society offers dispute resolution services to people who live outside of Strathcona County, provided that the municipality that they live in does not offer a similar service. So this service would be open to residents of Beaumont. Administration also contacted the provincial government to determine if there are similar resources available through the province. There are some organizations that specialize in this type of dispute resolution. For instance, there is the Mediation and Restorative Justice Center, which is a not-for-profit organization devoted to building safer and more peaceful communities. This organization provides programs and services based on restorative justice and community mediation principles to help effectively resolve conflict. Some of their services, such as resolution meetings, are offered at no cost, but other of their services do have a cost. One example would be coaching. Based on this information, administration could undertake the following actions. We could develop a City of Beaumont resource page on dispute resolution to help support residents experiencing conflict. We would also then develop an internal communication strategy to ensure that all city departments are aware of these resources and are able to refer residents to these resources. Finally, we would also develop an external communication strategy to promote these resources to residents. So that might involve promotion through our website and social media channels. Funding for this effort could be addressed through the existing operating budget, especially because we can leverage some of the existing resources that are already available. In terms of timing, our goal would be to have the resource page and internal communication strategy complete for the first quarter of 2023. The external communication strategy would then, of course, follow. Administration feels that this would be an effective way to meet Council's goal of providing more supports to residents experiencing conflicts. If Council is supportive of this approach, the recommendation in the report could be moved and voted upon. With that, I'll conclude my presentation and open it up to Council's comments or questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bujaya. Much appreciated. With that, open to Council for questions for our presenter. Councilor Barnhart, this is an issue you have brought forward to us, so please speak first to it. Thank you. Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much, administration. I think you did a fine job of pulling together a whole lot of pieces that are in the works and that could go further to help citizens that are dealing with these issues. And just for my council colleagues to recollect, there were 2 residents that came forward to us and spoke, and one I knew quite well from the experience she had shared with me several years running now. During the winter months, and the other was a new gentleman that I hadn't heard from until he came to council. But I think it's clear from those 2 examples that the land use bylaw and the community standards bylaw will probably not address their issues in the short term by any means, and that something else would be needed. And that's where I do think, Ms. Bujaya, that the dispute resolution opportunities. So my one question that I want to raise here is that would Strathcona County allow our residents to use that free of charge?
Councillor Barnhart, or Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Barnhart, yes, they would. So the only way we would be incurring a cost, they offer both virtual and in-person mediation services. So if we wanted in-person mediation in the city of Beaumont, we would either have to work with them to provide a space. So there would be a minimal cost for that, but there would be no charge to the city for that service. So it is a really excellent opportunity to leverage this service. And they were very happy to work with us and to help make that service available to our residents.
Excellent. And just one further question. I'm
Yes.
trying to hold myself back from speaking to the motion. I apologize for that. But the other question was around volunteers. Was there any conversation with the director of Strathcona County that perhaps there could be some reach out here to people who would like to learn how to be mediators and take the training? Because I know it's excellent training, or at least it has been in the past that I've been aware of it. So just wondering.
Thank you. That's a really good question. I did not discuss that particular point, but I did commit to following up and having further conversations pending the outcome of council's decision on this matter. So that I think that's an excellent conversation to have with them.
I think it would go a long way to increasing the skills we have in our own community as well. Thank you very much, and I'll await the motion and the discussion from council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Miller, you have a question for our presenter on the material presented. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kathy kind of brought up exactly what I was going to address. I think this was really interesting. I didn't know that there are organizations that exist like this for municipalities, so it's really, it's kind of cool to see. I guess I sort of have a depiction of what it would look like when we have 2 residents that are experiencing conflict and how that gets resolved. You know, is it the one thing that I was initially thinking is that it's more virtual, but I didn't know if it would be in a space in person, you know, or obviously these organizations have experience with this, but, you know, if just questions around it, you know, with when there is conflict, if it can get heated or, you know, what that looks like really is, you know, to me, it's not always just a calm conversation. So I guess you probably can't give me exactly what it, you know, would look like, but it's just an interesting initiative, I guess, to bring up. So I didn't know things like this existed. So it's good that you brought this forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councilor Newkirk. Steve, you have the floor. Oh, hang on. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Dispute resolution and the dispute in Beaumont is actually what brought me to my first council meeting. It was probably a Tuesday night, and I couldn't believe that City Council was contemplating changing an entire bylaw because two neighbors were fighting over air conditioning. And I sat out here and said, "What are you doing, and why are you doing that?" And here I am today. So that's a little piece of history for you. Beyond that, I think this is a great example of looking around regionally for solutions rather than just trying to create our own program. And kudos to administration for identifying that opportunity, looking into it, and bringing it forward to for council to consider, and more importantly for the poor folks who are experiencing these problems, who we've heard from. So thanks to administration for bringing this forward, and I look forward to supporting what's in front of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Give me 1 second here. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Councillor Miller, would you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, my apologies. I maybe wasn't clear on my first comment. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Addressing administration. What does this actually look like when we're resolving a dispute through an organization?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Miller. So there is a whole process that's managed by the society. There is a bit of an intake. There's a person who speaks to all parties. The parties have to all want to take part in the dispute resolution. And then they negotiate who will be in the room, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person. So there is a whole process. There is a fair bit of information about the process on the respective websites. So we could certainly share those sites with council if you want to take a little time to sort of read a little more about the process in more detail. But it is not my area of expertise by any stretch. So I'm learning about this as I was doing the research and having these conversations with the various representatives of the different bodies that I spoke to.
Thank you very much, Sandy. That was very helpful. And yes, I'd be interested in those links being shared just so we could research it a little more.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no further questions for the presenter. Councillor Barnard, would you care to make a motion on this topic? Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would love to make that motion. I move that administration implement the 3 actions set out on pages 2 and 3 of the July 12th, 2022 report, options for addressing issues between neighbors related to snow, ice, and other property concerns. And just again, reiterate that the bylaws are necessary, but they're not the whole answer. And to Councillor Van Newkirk, it's often the bylaws are in place and then there's still conflict. So we do have to find ways to give our citizens and residents the opportunity to learn the skills they need to address some of these issues themselves, if at all possible. So I for sure will be letting the residents that I know that we're going to be going down this road looking at it, and appreciate that we're sharing that information if this motion does pass. Thank you.
Could be a great topic for a future mayor's column in the newspaper telling them about it, maybe. Just a thought. Mr. Berezowski, I see you nodding. Always a good sign. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? Kat, you have the floor. Councillor McCook.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Ms. Bujia, if you can maybe let us know approximately when residents could use how quickly could they use the process once implemented?
The wonderful thing is that residents could take advantage today. These resources are available. So I will share the links with council. And if as individual councillors, you know of residents who are experiencing conflict, you could make those referrals today. Administration just needs some time to work with the different groups, come up with the plan, do the proper communications and outreach. We also want to make sure we have time internally so that we know of the resource internally and we can make those referrals ourselves too.
Okay, so if for ourselves, would we refer them back to city administration or through the links
You could
directly?
refer them directly to the links. So I'll make sure that council has that information.
Perfect, thank
ASAP.
you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask council to vote on the motion before you. Councillor Miller, how do you vote?
In favor?
Thank you, Councillor. And that passed unanimously. Thank you, Council. Our next item of business is 7E. Motion following notice, Indigenous business attraction, Councillor Munckhof-Swain. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. This is pretty straightforward for me. I'll read it into the record here. That administration explore options for identifying and promoting Indigenous business attraction opportunities in Beaumont. Put simply, you know, we've all identified the need to grow our commercial tax base. Based on several conversations that I've had, I think there is a significant opportunity to attract Indigenous businesses here, and this motion directs administration to target specifically some Indigenous businesses. And so hopefully something comes of it, and if not, then at least we gave it a shot. But I believe that this is a good opportunity to increase our commercial tax base. So I'll leave it there. Happy to answer questions from anyone if they want. Otherwise, we'll vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. When I was down in at Stampede doing my mayor thing with some groups I had to meet with, I met with some Indigenous members as well too, and there are pools of capital Indigenous communities have across the province. They're looking to invest in businesses. So why not invest in Beaumont? I think it's a very good topic, and we should explore opportunities to expand our tax base, definitely from the commercial perspective. Councillor Barnhart, you have a comment or
Thank you,
question
Mayor.
on the motion?
But just one question, Councilor Munckhof-Swain, are you wanting it to be back in a certain period of time? There's no time limit on this, so I'm just wondering if that's too wide open, because it could be 3 years from now. I just wondered if you wanted to put any time on it.
No, I deliberately kept a timeline off it. This is not something that, we can put a clock up against. I think the purpose of this is for administration to get an idea. Does council support them to go and do that? And if we support it here, then they'll go and work through that. And our CEO Schwartz has got some thoughts and some ideas that he wants to kind of move forward, but wanted to make sure that we had council support before going in and doing that. So the key thing here is that there isn't a cost associated with this. This is just having conversations and to be able to signal to the Indigenous nations that we're trying to connect with, that yes, council supported it as per the motion on July 12th, that they're interested in exploring what these options could be.
Okay.
Any further questions for Councillor Munckhof-Swain on his motion? Seeing none, I will, Councillor Miller, any questions?
No, Mayor.
Thank you.
And
Council,
I vote in favor.
Thank you very much. Council, I'll ask you to vote on the motion. Councillor Miller has stated positive. And then also, councillors, that carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Our next topic, I know we have a couple of gentlemen for our closed session this evening. We're going to be a couple minutes late, in case you may have noticed. We're moving along our agenda as best we can. So now we are into section 9 of our agenda, councillor inquiries, responses, and reports. You'll see those listed there. They've all been attended to by council administration prior to today's council meeting. At this point, I'll open up to councillors for any new inquiries that may be with our councillors. And Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, followed by Councillor Tessier. Steve, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I've gathered quite a few inquiries for tonight. I think there's 7 in total that I've provided, and I'll just go through and read those once they're posted. So the first inquiry reads, what mechanisms exist within our legislative framework for council to be able to put a pause on the approval of any further multi-suite permit applications within a traditional single-family dwelling, such as those we are seeing in Triumph Estates, Forest Heights, and other neighborhoods in Beaumont? Thank you. The second is, what is the anticipated timeline for the land use bylaw feedback and recommendations to come back to council from administration for discussion and debate? Is it possible to expedite this process? Thank you. The third, regarding refuse, debris, and garbage present on the sites of new home builds in Beaumont, what actions are administration and municipal enforcement undertaking to reduce these unsightly build sites in Beaumont? Thank you. Regarding residential parking, in instances where residential parking is limited in cul-de-sacs, what recourse do residents have when their neighbors are randomly parking out into the cul-de-sac in front of neighboring properties? What is city administration doing from a planning perspective, especially in cul-de-sacs, to ensure that parking issues such as those described above are limited in future areas of Beaumont? Thank you. Community standards bylaw. The community standards bylaw that is underway is an important tool that will be able to be used to deal with many issues brought forth to both city administration and council. When can council expect to see this bylaw for discussion and debate? Thank you. Home-based business. Regarding the location of home-based business in Beaumont, can administration provide an overview on how we ensure to not put too many or overload one area with home-based businesses who have parking needs and are anticipated to generate daily traffic? What methods are utilized to ensure that approved home-based businesses are operating as per their applications and approvals? Thank you. And parking. On property parking. Can administration outline what options exist to encourage residents to park on property, driveways and in garage, in order to reduce the amount of street parking in all areas given the higher density neighborhoods that are being approved and built out? Thank you.
Does that cover all of them?
Yeah, thank you.
I wasn't counting, that's why I just want to ask that question. You didn't miss anything for you.
No, thank you, administration.
You're welcome. Councilor Cook, you are next, and followed by Councilor Miller. Kat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Please provide information on zero lot line developments, including what are the widths of the roads and zero lot line developments in comparison to other residential streets? And if the widths are less than regular residential streets, why? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good one. You read my mind on that one, actually. Thank you for bringing it forward. Appreciate it. Councilor Miller, Ashley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just waiting to see it up there. Okay. My inquiry is regarding school bus concerns. What options does the municipality have around enforcing and promoting traffic safety and concerns with traffic congestion, particularly with school bus traffic on Rue Eaglemont leaving St. Andre Academy School? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further councillor inquiries this evening to be put forward? Seeing none, thank you. On to our next part of our agenda is 10, CAO update. Mr. Dowler, I believe you're speaking this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. Being that the weather is so nice outside, we'll start off with a couple of weather-related updates. Starting with administration has posted some information about safety during high temperatures and have made the rec centers available for any vulnerable people who may need a place to cool off during the high temperatures. Continuing along the heat-related items, infrastructure has done some wonderful planning and has a new air conditioner installed at the ELCC. So good news for the folks over there. Right now, water reservoir levels seem to be maintaining, and I know we're just starting down this path of warmer weather, so we'll see how that goes over the course of the next few days. Just an item with regards to operations, pothole repairs continue with focus being on the arterial roads right now. Flipping to recreation, good news there with regards to our summer camps. We do have some full attendance with the camps themselves, and we are trying to accommodate some wait lists as well. An item specific related to an item that was approved by council in the 2022 budget, Summer in the Park pilot project. We're getting some pretty good response related to that program. Started July 4th, and we have about 50 to 60 kids per day taking part in that program itself. So quite successful so far. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Deller. Any questions for Mr. Deller's CA report on behalf of Mr. Schwartz? Seeing none, thank you, council. Next item of our agenda is notices of motion. I notice a motion to be brought forth by council members this evening. Councilor Van Nieuwker, I know you have one coming. Are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, please.
You have the floor, Steve. Oh, hang on. There you go.
There, I'm ready. Thank you. At the July 26, 2022 council meeting, I will move that by the end of October 2022, administration prepare a report on options available for addressing cleanup of current and future construction sites in Beaumont, including enhanced enforcement, education, or other possible remedies. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Are there any further notes of the motion from council members this evening? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Next part of our agenda, before we go to closed session, I just have one quick comment to make. I want to thank council. I was unable to attend this past July 10th opening of the Blue Jays base diamond out at the West Recreation site. Councilor Munckhof-Swain acted as deputy mayor and said a few words and threw a strike across the strike zone. What I hear, you know, is a strike. Well, it's only 10 feet away. It wasn't hard to make a strike. I heard it was 10 feet. It wasn't,
From what I saw, it
it wasn't
wasn't a
regulation.
legit
I heard it was 10
strike.
feet. So anyhow, but thanks, council, for being there. I couldn't make it myself. I would love to have been there. It's a great project. I've heard nothing but good things about the ball diamonds, the dog parks, both small and large dog parks. Everyone's very good comments. Actually, nothing negative at all, which is a very good thing. So a very good thing. I wouldn't say it's abnormal, but it's a very good thing to have very few negative comments on such a huge project that we completed with the ball diamonds and the dog park. So thank you, council, for going and attending. I wish I could have been there, but my duties took me elsewhere on the weekend. So appreciate that. And with that, I believe we have nothing more on our agenda. We will now move into closed session. Is there a member of council willing to move the motion on the screen regarding closed session? Councilor Barnhart. Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council move into closed session pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, sections 2425 at 8:05 p.m.
Thank you, councilor. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask council to vote accordingly. Councilor Miller, how do you vote?
In favor?
Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you. I want to thank our guests from the public this evening who are attending. We'll now ask you to leave the room, please. We can have our